Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Ampire.
Hello, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Oh, man. This is not the weekend I thought it was going to be. Just isn't, guys. I thought for sure that we were beating Dallas. I was pretty convinced of it. And then I was like, hey, anything can happen in a championship night. So I thought the Spirit, hey, why not? They can beat Orlando. And that would probably go either way. I may be happy either way because it was a great season, but I'd love to see a championship. And this team has magic, and that didn't happen either. So this is a rough one. My saving grace professionally was I was going to wake up the next day and watch the Commanders not only beat the Cowboys, but kill them. And when it was 10-9 in the third quarter, forget the rest of it. I'll get to all that in a minute. I was forlorn. I was like, not what I expected, guys. So let's just go back to that original. I don't care how they win. Let's just get no style points. Don't care. And we couldn't even get that one. So,
The assessment, and as you know, I'm a season ticket holder. I hadn't been to a home game since the Browns game, just between the schedule and everything. The assessment, though, was in the fourth quarter, before the chaos tornado ensued, was this feels like a loss even if they pull it out. Because no Diggs, no Ferguson, no Dak, all the injuries on their offensive line, on the defense. Parsons played well. We called that one. But all of those stacking up was like, guys.
Yeah.
You guys told me with the practice schedule, everything was going to be okay this week.
Yeah.
And it was far from okay yesterday.
No. Dallas came motivated, prepared, played really well on both sides of the ball, have very little possibilities of big plays on offense. So they had to kind of manage that. I thought ran the ball better than I would have expected them to. I liked their play calling with Cooper Rush. He played outstanding. It was just protective of the ball. Whatever tendencies Washington shows, they exposed them with an offense that was limited in what it was capable of doing, but enough to keep them in the game. They were the ones that were shooting themselves in the foot over and over in the first half. When the score was 3-3 at halftime, I'm looking at London going, man, like, we blocked a kick. That's awesome. They missed a kick. We blocked a punt, and we have 3 points. Like, guys. Like, this is, but that, like, you're watching them and you're going, well, if you've actually paid attention to Dallas the last few weeks, where it really goes off the rails is in the second half. It just takes one big mistake and it goes off the rails. And they didn't have one of those in the second half. And then all of a sudden, clock's ticking down and you're in this stupid 10-9, 13-9 game with a team that has no business being there because of how many people they're missing. And I was like, I had turned to Sunday morning. I was just like, all right, no mercy. Because I'm thinking about the stupid benches and the scripted thing they did at Thanksgiving. I forgot about that. The scripted things they did at Thanksgiving. When we had half our team for COVID, they didn't care, scored 56 points on us. So this was one of those, this was a get back game. And I know most of the people in the building now weren't there for any of that, but I was. And there were a few that were. And I've been waiting for this, like shoes on the other foot, let's step on their throats. And far from it. Like, in fact, the opposite of it. And so I'm a little shook today about where things are because I just expected them to win. And so did Vegas. And I'm very, very surprised that we're sitting here today talking about a loss. And I'll get into all the craziness in a minute. But the reality was the craziness isn't why they lost, like, at all. And I'm not going to even sit there and pretend that it is. It isn't.
No, they absolutely should have lost before all that chaos happened with the way things were shaking out. And, don't have a sack on Cooper Rush, of all people.
I know.
Until the last.
Missing their 2 starting guards. And I was saying last week, if you go watch them, I think they really miss Biotish bad, actually. So the interior offensive line was a wreck, and Washington couldn't take advantage of it. That's on you guys. That's on you.
And I mean, like, they limited the big plays with CD, but they kept finding them. Like, they kept finding them past the sticks. They kept figuring out how to get the ball into his hands, and that was frustrating to watch. And then the offense, this is where like I'm panicking now. This offense is a shell of itself that it was in the first half of the year. I don't know what's wrong at this point, because we had Jaden who couldn't get the ball to his receivers in that Eagles game, and now he's overthrowing guys. And it's like, short 1 week, overthrowing this week. Now he doesn't seem to be in his rhythm either. Like, he was taking the ball and running a little bit more than normal yesterday too. It's a little chaotic right now, to the point where I think you're hitting the panic button a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say a couple things on that. Okay. On Dallas, let's give a little golf clap to our old friend, put ketchup on torn up stuffed animals, Mike Zimmer, who
supermodel girlfriend. Don't discount that too, by the way.
Hey, I say this lovingly. Okay. I respect the man. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Google Mike Zimmer's girlfriends and go through the years, actually. So full respect, sir.
Game respects game. Yeah. Game respects game over here.
Yeah. He's going, you don't have that game. And I'd go, you're right. Anyway, right. Anyway, okay, before the Eagles game, what became evident was teams were, and maybe this was a combination of Jaden's ribs are bothering him, it's obvious, let's go after him. Or two, if you just leave him in the pocket, he's going to kill us. And maybe it's that. And they started pressuring him. Remember, we started talking about this. The Giants, who don't blitz that much, blitzed more or brought more pressure packages than they normally do. The Pittsburgh followed suit and did the exact same thing, brought more pressure packages. And I remember sitting there going, here's what I'm really concerned about. He's clearly injured. I don't know how injured, because he's playing, but they're trying to tee off on him now. And they clearly think it's the best path to slowing down this offense is come at him. Just totally come at him. And they're not worried clearly about our receivers, with the exception of Terry. Philadelphia, they backed that off a little bit, didn't bring the type of pressure that the other two teams did, but they didn't have to, because Jalen Carter was wrecking the game, right? So turn around, we get to Dallas. Dallas has a number of pressure packages, and they have very good blitzers. Parsons is a monster to handle, and they have two, what I think, and I said this on Friday, the two people you worry about with them in pressure packages is this guy, DeMarvion Overshone, who's very fast, very rangy, kind of looks like Jeremy Chin to me, and Donovan Wilson, who's very, very good, sneaky, knows when to come, just smart player, just like very good, smart player, fills holes, and be a pretty good blitzer. Well, this was interesting because this started happening over and over to the point where I turned to London and I go, what's going on here? They were bringing pressure from the opposite side of Parsons, and often it was a free rusher because you probably have to account for Parsons with more than one person. Jaden sees this, takes off, runs to the right, away from the pressure. Waiting there is a cornerback, literally waiting there, like as if they knew this was chess. They were literally a step ahead going, if we do this, he will do that. He will run literally right at you. He wants to go to the sideline, stand there and wait for him. So how many times yesterday did Daniels vacate the pocket and find there was no open grass? There was a corner who you would have thought would have been covering somebody, but wasn't. Well, I owe them a golf clap for that's pretty good. So, you know what? So before we get to Washington's offense, I think it's fair to credit the opponent. The opponent defensively really, really, really confused this team yesterday to the point where this was the first, I wouldn't say seen ghosts situation, but probably a couple times, if Jaden's being honest, where he went, why are you here right now? Why are you here?
No, because that was, I think, the most jarring thing yesterday is when he when he was finally trying to find some run lanes, there were no lanes. No. It was a wall. It was a wall every single time. They were all standing their ground a little bit. And that's what I was like, this isn't going to fly today. The other side of this too, I want to, I already mentioned him once, but it was the first time that I've seen a guy catch up to Jaden. Parsons caught him. I think it was in the first half where he chased him down. I was like, oh God, like this is
Parsons is, I know he's a big yapper and everything, and everyone remembers that part. You can't lose sight of he's a very special player. He is.
No, of course. And I love, by the way, they started yapping at each other. I'm like, great, let's start this thing off. Like, let's start this thing off this way because I want to see this for years to come here. But that was also my first thought process of, oh crap, if you run towards him, he can catch him. And if he's trying to roll out the other way, he can still catch him. It was a bad combination. It was almost like let Parsons go chase him, and then we'll catch him, if he's running into the sideline or into that wall.
So to me, and this is now search for answer time, right? I agree with you. I'm a little shook about the offense. We're getting patterns of how the defenses want to try to handle it, and it's working, right? And it's working now to the point where it's next leveled yesterday, where Dallas is standing where he's going to go. This reminds me of that Bills game a year ago when the linebacker was dropping and standing literally in a spot where they knew they were going to throw the ball. And I went, uh-oh, like if they know where you're going with the ball, that's bad, right? That's really, really, really bad. And in this case, it's different. They were like, we know what your escape hatch is. We're going to stand there and wait for you. So this was the Matrix, but the government people were waiting at every turn. Just nothing you could do about it. So there's some things that need to change. And I will start with this. More receivers need to be involved, or the middle of the field needs to be utilized more. These are the two spots that it seems that teams are literally not concerned with whatsoever. They're like, if we pressure him, he will either try to dump off a screen or run, and he will often run to his right. So this is where we're going to wait for him. They're not concerned about him extending the play or moving or looking downfield or finding the Luke McCaffreys, Olamide Zaccheaus, maybe Ben Siddett at some point, Zach Ertz's of the world. Nope, he's not doing that yet. So is that schematically a problem? Is that the growth part for Jaden that needs to change for him as he, let's not forget, he is a rookie, right? He's been way ahead of the curve. I think he's had a phenomenal season, and he is learning. The NFL is different. And now in the second half of his first season, really good defensive coordinators are watching this, and they're going, here's what we're going to do. And until you have an answer for it, they will keep doing it. And it's happened over and over and over now. So it's a little bit on Cliff to figure out a way to change his reads and to help him out here a little bit, because he's become, to them, I don't think to us, but to them, he's become predictable. So predictable that they're standing where he's going to run now. So how do we do this? Well, McCaffrey doesn't see targets. Zaccheaus hasn't seen, like in the last couple of weeks, very, very, very few targets. When the offense was really going, they were 50-50 run, which I'm very worried about because of the injuries yesterday. I don't know how bad Robinson's is, and Eckler's was scary. That was a really scary injury at the end of the game. And so we'll wait and see. And so their running game is clearly not going to be the same if one or both are not playing. And that feels logical heading into next week that they won't. But they were best when they were kind of 50-50 run, setting up these third and shorts. Daniels could always get it with his legs if he had to, but it opened the door for everything. And how many times was it some unlikely pass to Zaccheaus, pass to McCaffrey, pass to Ertz in a spot of the field that wasn't expected? That hasn't been happening. So on some level, they've become predictable, so much so that Dallas was standing where he was going to run the ball, let alone throw it. This is on Cliff. Like, he's going to have to rethink some things, alter the reads up a little bit. This guy's a quick learner. Like, we've learned that very fast. I actually thought he looked healthier than he did. So this whole, he needed the break, he looked it to me. He looked like he had his speed back. He was vacating quicker than he was. He was relatively more decisive than he was the past couple of games. So I thought he was fine. I mean, I hear you on he overthrew some balls and all that stuff. I agree. But I don't think he was making, once again, poor decisions. Like, that's the one thing I really like about him. What Cliff needs to do is help him make better decisions in lieu of how teams are adjusting to them. And that's on the coaches, in my opinion.
No, 100%. Because I remember kind of saying when we were arguing about the trade deadline, where I didn't think they really needed to add a second wide receiver because they were all the second wide receiver by committee, essentially, right? Like how many games, especially the games that they won, where it was Zacchaeus gets one grab, but that one grab was a 3rd and long, or Noah Brown, not the Hail Mary, but Noah Brown would catch one. He'd have 2 or 3 catches, and they'd both be in the second half that were big 3rd downs or 2nd and long or something like that. Like I said, Zacchaeus, the same thing. McCaffrey, you go back to that Arizona game where he had that long completion. I think he only had 1 or 2 balls in that game. I was very much fine with not adding another weapon only because they were doing this by committee.
Yes.
Well, now the committee's not even doing anything. So I don't know what you do there. And that is absolutely a coaching thing. You got to get one of these guys open every so often. You can't just rely on chucking it up to Terry.
Well, it's like a basketball game where the guy gets the ball out near the arc, but you know he can't shoot. So you don't defend him.
Yeah. Right.
And like, that's on the coaches. Like, if you put that guy in a position where the other team knows he's not a threat, well, they just back off and now you're playing 4-on-5. That feels like a little bit what's going on here, that they've gotten away from some of these secondary targets, so much so that the defense doesn't even figure they have to really account for them very often. And as it turns out, they've been right about that. Yeah. So this is on Cliff to figure this out. Last week, someone hit him up on Terry's always in the same spot. So, which is a larger just conversation of clearly the offense is taking a tick down here. Your tendencies, exemplified yesterday by Dallas, are on full display for the people who know what they know and know more than what I'm talking about here and know how to really defend it. So it's time for you to adjust and change this. And I actually didn't think Jaden played poorly yesterday at all. I think he played fine. He still makes really good decisions. The interception early in the game was, should he have not thrown that? Maybe. It did hit Robinson in the hands. Unfortunately, the defensive lineman was right there. I would just call that could you have eaten that one and thrown it away? Yes. Was it a really bad throw? No. I think it was like bad turn of events. And the second interception obviously was just a chuck at the end of the game. And so whatever, that stuff happened. There was, whatever. That's not a bad decision. He did what he had to do. Yeah. But largely, I don't think he's playing poorly. I do think he's a rookie that needs his coaches to help him out a little bit here to go, okay, what are we going to do now that these teams are doing this? And like I said at the beginning of this, this is a trend I saw 3-4 weeks ago that I'm like, this is what teams want to do. He's going to get hit. And what worried me at the time was he clearly is dealing with a rib injury, and that worries me. But now it's just strategy and it's working. And until you beat it, teams are going to repetitively do it against you. Tennessee will too. So this is the week and then the bye week where they've got to figure out what is offense 2.0 going to look like. And that's on the coaches.
And unfortunately, we're breaking this thing down, at a pretty good level, I think. But this all does play into the fear with Cliff, was that the second half, for some reason, his offenses do not perform like they do in the first half. Granted, like I said, we have all of those reasons, but they still do equate to the worry with Cliff. And he was asked about that last week too. It was kind of just like, I know he tried to write that off, but it's a legit concern. And when they hired him, that was the way
he answered that question, actually, because he's trying to pretend he doesn't know that that's a narrative, which I believe him when he says he doesn't pay a lot of attention to all this stuff, which I would argue you shouldn't pay a lot of attention to all this stuff. You can't listen to what everybody's saying on social media, even the people you respect. You can't listen to all of it. I agree with that, but he's been around long enough to know what his reputation is. So when he answered it that way, I get it. It's like, I don't want to hear it. But all these seasons are probably different, and it might be a touch coincidental that it's occurred that way.
Sure.
But the way he answered it was he tried to pretend like he has no idea what you're talking about, which, okay, you do you.
Yeah. Right. I guess I don't think he was trying to dismiss it. I just think he was trying to basically just say, I haven't done anything differently in these second halves, which also kind of answers itself there, literally. So I just hope there's a little more self-scouting here. And I bet you there will be. This coaching staff, I still have a lot of faith in that they will do that. But once again, I'll tell you what I told you on Friday. Both sides of the ball told me, we're back to normal this week. No weird practice schedule. We're rested. And didn't look like it to me. They looked like the same team they did against the Eagles.
I will say this for the defense. It was, in my opinion, 2 pass interference calls and the busted coverage on the tight end, which unfortunately that's happened a few times now where they've lost the tight end in the middle of the field. A few weeks ago in New York, it was Theo Johnson. Yesterday, it was Luke Schoonmaker that gave up an easy touchdown late. Let me see if I got this right. 33 points in the second half given up? I mean, granted, one was an onside kick return for a touchdown, so I'm playing the defense for that. One was, and I'll get to Turpin's return in a moment because that was ridiculous. We saw 2 utterly ridiculous plays yesterday at the end of the game. But still, all right, even take that away. Again, it's 22 points in the second half. I mean, this is consistently in the second half. The defense either, I don't know how you want to put it, wears down, gets beat, makes mistakes. Those penalties on the penalty on Igbenogany, the second one, I really don't think it should have been called, but he didn't turn his head, so they called it. And then, the busted coverage is a touchdown. So largely, and I would have been surprised if Dallas had humongous numbers yesterday because they don't have a lot of downfield threats. CeeDee Lamb had a nice day, but it was all underneath and short passes, no big plays. And Rico Dowdle had too good of a day, in my opinion. It still added up to like 80 yards rushing. Like it should, considering how they rushed the ball, it should have been more like 50, in my opinion. But, they did a little bit better than they were supposed to. Their point total wasn't anywhere near what should have been enough to win. So for me, largely the defense played okay and hurt themselves with these key moments.
No, 100% agree. And I mean, that's been the defense all league though, or all year though, where they've kind of duct taped it together. And I thought it was a decent effort, but same thing. Why do all these points keep coming in the fourth quarter? It's super frustrating. Like remember my whole thing, at least in the first half of the year, was, this defense just needs to get a couple of stops and this offense will take care of business. Well, now that the offense isn't taking care of business and the defense is falling apart, it's this mix in the fourth quarter that is just not sustainable to winning anything if they keep doing this for the rest of the year.
Okay, so that is before everything went berserker. Okay.
That's it? That's all we got before? Yeah.
That ignores the blocked field goal, blocked punt, field goal off of goalpost, a missed extra point before the missed extra point. Like, yesterday was nuts. Like, that was full on nuts. All right, I'm going to put this one up that I put up on Friday. Do not kick to Turpin. Not that you need to listen to me, but that guy's the best returner in the NFL by far, period. And if you needed proof of it, he hit, as I saw on the internet, the B button in a way that I've never seen in my life. And he fumbled the kickoff, picks it up at the goal line. Because of the new rules, you got to return them now. Like there's no way out of it. You got to return it now. And he did a spin move that was unbelievable, juked 2 guys. Reeves missed a tackle. McGee gets out of a lane. That's all he needs because when he hits the gas, he's gone. And that was the first of, I can't believe after we just got back into the game that we're now out of it before we knew that we were going to get back into it. But again, why? And the crazy part is the coaches are going to tell you, we executed exactly what we wanted to do. We kicked this ball that he fumbled inside the 5-yard line. It's all we could ask for. We were going to tackle him inside the 10 until they didn't.
Full disclosure, when he did hit that spin move, I said, well, that's the best spin I've ever seen. And then he broke it into the end zone where my seats are. And full disclosure, I left after that one because I just really couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it.
What do you mean? Haven't you been paying attention this year?
Did you watch that game? It was a disaster. And sorry, my faith was kind of beaten down by that point. I don't think I can be blamed on that.
So you got to listen to me call the Terry play?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's exactly what happened. I was halfway to the car, and the fireworks went off before your call came in through my phone. So yeah.
You're like, what was that?
No, everybody. You would have thought I mean this in the funniest way possible. Like a bomb went off or something. Everyone stopped and was like, wait a minute, what just happened? And everyone goes to their phones real quick and everyone's thinking tie game. But, we can get to that part next if you want to get to that.
So This was miracle number 2.
Great call, by the way. I didn't say that, but great call by you, by the way. Like,
appreciate it.
Fully as excited as you should be when Terry does Terry things like that.
It was the second out-of-body experience that I had.
Yes.
Like, and then you look around, you see looks on people's faces that are, even add to it. Like they just saw a ghost. Like
yes.
you just
right.
You the fact that this has happened twice is really crazy. This one was a little different because that really should have just been a 20 to 25 yard pass that Dallas just totally misplayed, and good on Terry. He hit the gas like I haven't seen him hit the gas on. Then comes the extra point. Okay. The snap's low, but Way handled it. He's a Gold Glover. He handled it, and Seibert just missed it and hooked it bad. Second missed extra point. Obviously, you're going to ask Quinn, hindsight, would you have gone for 2? I, at the time, even think that. So I don't know why he would. The game was going to be tied. We were going to overtime because I would assume they wouldn't have kicked it to Turpin. I would have assumed at that time that they just would not have done that. But, man, this went from second play of the year to a footnote. I can't believe it. I've never seen a play like that have less meaning in the end. That's the most amazing part of it, that it's just a footnote. They pulled off a miracle, and then it didn't count. It was, I can't believe it. It didn't even occur to me. Like, it didn't even enter my brain that he would miss that.
To your point, it went from miracle play to garbage time touchdown within 30 seconds, right? Like it went from play, second play of the year to nobody's going to remember this unless you had Terry on your fantasy team. Like that's what it essentially turned into. And I don't know, like I said to you before we started the show today, I thought we were over these traumatizing losses, but we are clearly not, especially in this rivalry at this point.
That was the weirdest fourth quarter I can remember in this rivalry in a long time, maybe since Santana Moss. Like that was the weirdest, but at least that one, those were like two traditional plays. Like
right.
Neither one of these, that kickoff return, which was special. I got to give Turpin a lot of credit. That was incredible. I think I even said it on the air. I'm like, oh my God. I was like that. I don't think I've ever seen somebody make a move like that on that part of the field and spring himself. That was incredible. And then the Terry thing was really a busted play by Dallas's team. It was a great throw, great catch. He should have been down at midfield. Like it was crazy that that he got away from all of them. It was probably the most intense fourth quarter since the Santana game.
I would say I'd throw the one
the
at
Vanderjack
FedEx.
Block.
Yeah, that one. The Troy Vincent block. Sean Taylor picks it up, face masked, untimed down. Nick Novak, who had missed one in that game too. That's sort of the only thing. But that was one play. Like Novak missed. Yeah. Okay. Actually, no. I think that's comparable. Novak actually missed a field goal.
Yes.
Dallas got the ball back with 30 seconds. Just kicked it got it to the other side of the field. They went for it. So yeah, I think it's that. That's the only one you could compare. But that was two back-to-back drives.
Those two, that's the weirdest endings.
Yeah.
That one and that game are the weirdest endings we've ever had.
Yeah, and in that one too, though, like that was really one play. Like a guy misses a field goal, we see that all the time. That was one play that was very chaotic. This was like ping pong with bombs, essentially. Like it was nuts.
And then, and then they return the onside kick for a touchdown, which had he just gone down, the game's over.
Yeah.
But because he returned it for a touchdown, it was a one-score game. So there was a part of me that went, they're not going to do that again, are they?
Right, exactly. Like they can't do it twice.
They can't do it twice, right? Anyway, well, oh, man. That was emotionally draining, guys. Really was.
It was. That was an emotionally draining weekend.
Tough one. Tough weekend. Tough weekend. We could use the bye week right now. That was a tough one. Anyway, let me take a quick break. We'll go through some of the other NFL games, and I want to recap what happened with the Spirit over the weekend, too. Very watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
Blinds.com's Black Friday sales event is happening now with our best deals of the season. Let our design experts help you make the perfect selection for your home on your schedule. We can send free samples right to you and handle everything from measure to install. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 50% site-wide, plus doorbusters, and a free professional measure at the Blinds.com Black Friday sales event now. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write 1 million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
All right, welcome back. Let's run through some of the other Week 12 results. Big numbers for Caleb. They get a loss. I think on Friday I said, if the Bears have any will left, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if they beat the Vikings. But the Vikings survive. It's 3 weeks in a row now. They've played weaker to weak-ish opponents. Their team isn't performing the way it was early in the season, kind of like Washington, but they're winning. They're finding a way to win, and they got away with this one too. And Caleb's numbers were actually very good in the loss yesterday.
I'm calling it on the Vikings now, though. What carries them is their defense, and that defense now is, giving up 27 to the Bears. That's where the red flag goes up for me for Minnesota. So I think I'm about to call it for the Vikings for the season at this point.
This is another one this is just another sign. The Lions are the best team in the NFL. You don't have to win 52-20 every week to show that. When you go on the road and beat a team that has playoff aspirations and you do it just kind of easily and they only score 6 points and supposedly your strength is not your defense, tells me everything I need to know about you. They're the team to beat, in my opinion. They are literally the team to beat. I'll get to Philadelphia in a minute because I think they're the ones that could beat them. But they're the favorite and the clear favorite across the board, in my opinion, to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Lions are the ones that haven't really shown much weakness since week 2, essentially. Like, we can complain about the Eagles and some of their results, but the Eagles are basically hitting their stride at this point. The Lions easily knocking away the Colts as a road team. Impressive. I'll say impressive on that one.
Fins are back. I think they're going to make the playoffs because the AFC is beat up. I mean, 7 teams have to make it. Go look at the teams that aren't going to. New England, the Jets, Tennessee, Jacksonville. That Indianapolis result is good for them. Yep. The Raiders won't. The Browns won't. The Bengals probably won't. Like, somebody's got to make it. And they're clearly going to be the second best team in their division. So they're going to be right there. And their offense is waking up again. So assuming Tua stays healthy, I think they're going to end up in the playoffs. And they're dangerous as a play, especially this time around where, remember, they had the nosedives in December into January. If this time around it's a build back up and you get better as it goes, in an AFC where things feel a little open, watch out. Like, could they steal a win with their offense? Yeah, I think they could.
No, it's exactly what I was going to say was, in all these other years, they've kind of limped into the playoffs. And like last year, they got a bad draw, right? Where they had to play Kansas City in negative-degree weather or whatever. Yes. That was a bad draw for them. But
and 2 years ago, they didn't have Tua. Remember, they went to Buffalo with Skylar Thompson and almost won.
Right.
And last year was bad too. They lost their 2 best pass rushers, like literally right before the season ended. Like, people forget that part. They think, oh, they just blew it at the end. No, they had really bad draws both years when they got to the playoffs.
Exactly right. And that's why I think maybe this year with them actually ascending and having a little bit less expectations, let's be honest there too, maybe that helps them a little bit. But yeah, I think they're definitely in on the AFC side.
Neighbors calls out Dayball Asks him why. Go talk to the coach about why I didn't get the ball when we were down until we were down 30-0. It's a good question he's asking, if you ask me. The Giants, we haven't had a chance to talk about, because by the time we talked about Daniel Jones, at that point, he had only been benched, not released.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised off the statement he gave. And clearly they're done, for the year. And I have a funny feeling that the house will be cleaned, even though the mayor said they wouldn't, but I think it will.
Kiss of death every time. Yeah. Every time you come out in week 6 to say, no, everything's fine, guys. Nobody's getting fired. They end up getting fired.
I saw that. Who was it? Baltimore looks interested in Daniel Jones. That'd be a very interesting spot for him to be the backup behind Lamar. Very interesting spot.
Baltimore and Minnesota were the 2 teams that were listed there. I told you he needs to go to one of the Wonderkins to, kind of rehab himself. So, yeah, I think both of those spots could be good. But the other thing on Neighbors, too, was, did you see the question about, like, he was asked about the quarterback play? He was asked about DeVito. He was just like, it's the same crap that when Jones was in there. The quarterback play is not good. Like, was just, and which I think was more of an, like, I don't think he was trying to trash Jones. I think he was just trying to say, you made this change, but this guy's worse. Like, what are we even doing here? Which you and I know that
about him going into the draft. They said, like, he'll tell you how he feels. He gets real ornery. I will say this time, he's a stud. So
yeah.
He's a total stud. Yeah. You take the good with the bad with someone like that, because he's a huge talent. Huge talent.
But he's saying what we were all thinking. Like, you made this change. Why? Jones is still the best option. Remember, the locker room was saying he's still the best quarterback in the room, and they just cut him. Chiefs
survive yesterday against Carolina. Texans don't. They're punching below their weight class. They've been doing it for weeks. I said this on Friday too. I said, watch out. Like, they're not consistent, and Tennessee plays hard. Like, they typically just make a lot of mistakes. This is, obviously for us, we're like, oh God, because everyone thought that was an easy win. It's clearly not going to be.
My biggest fear is incoming next week. I get to watch Will Levis in person at Northwest Stadium, but he's also just beat the Texans. I'm scared. Just chalk me up as being scared for Sunday. I will say this though, you can attest this. I call Texans the frauds in the first month of the season. They are not the same team for whatever reason. They're just not moving the ball as much. That defense keeps falling apart. I don't know what's wrong there, but they're clearly in a sophomore slump with not only CJ Stroud, but also with D'Amico Ryans. They need to figure it out. Luckily, they're in a weak division. That's what's happening.
Buffalo just needs to stay the course. They'll end up with the 1 seed because the Chiefs, they're going to lose more games. This can't happen every week like this. So we'll see. Broncos country. Let's ride, guys. We do have a distinct possibility of a Denver v. Russ playoff game. Let's go, baby. Let's go with that one. TikTok is going to go crazy for that. I can't wait.
I think I told you this too early on. I like Bo Nix a lot now. Like, Bo Nix, he really has picked it up over the last 6 weeks. He lit it up again yesterday. I think if Jaden doesn't pick it back up, Bo Nix is about to steal Rookie of the Year from him, the way things have been going here.
Shut your mouth.
You know how this is. It's how you finish, not how you begin a season. Like, Jaden might have better numbers, but Nix is just lighting it up right now. So
the way it's going, they might have a better record than Washington too. So we'll have to see.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
We'll see. Predictable because Brock Purdy didn't play and they're beat up. The Packers beat up on the Niners, but that's what a good team does to a marginalized team. That's not indicative of how good the 49ers are, but they're missing too many players. And when you're missing too many players, the good team takes advantage of you. Hello. Hello. That's why yesterday was so disappointing here. That's not the Cowboys team. That's a shell of the Cowboys team. And I think that's what's disappointing here. The Packers did what you're supposed to do in a situation like that. You have no mercy for someone like that. You win.
Yep. No, exactly right. They ran away with this one pretty early on. This one was over in the third quarter.
Let's see. Seahawks win. Defensive struggle over Cardinals. 1 touchdown between the 2 teams. So that felt a little December-ish football. I wouldn't have expected it. I called that as might be the most fun game of the day because it had a lot of meaning attached to it. Turns out to be a dud. Seahawks win anyway. I actually feel like that's a bad result for us too because I'd rather one of these teams to separate, and nobody seemingly wants to do it.
No, I've told you this. The Seahawks are the West Coast Saints for me. It's a coin flip. I don't know what we're getting week to week with them. And honestly, the NFC West is just a mess. No team is stepping up. Like, I thought the Cardinals, maybe they were going to hit their stride and win this game. Nope.
Nobody
not at all.
looks like a contender.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, the Niners are just not the same team with all the injuries that they have. We'll get to the Rams in a second, who, have not. I thought that they were like, when they spent the money where they spent it, I'm like, watch out, their offense will come back. That hasn't really materialized. Defensively, they're not as good as they've been, but I thought the offense would compensate for it. That hasn't happened. The fact that Arizona has been kind of front running as we head to Thanksgiving says a lot about the other teams that it really does say about them, in my opinion. And Seattle, I thought, was a wild card because I think Geno's pretty good. They've got good offensive weapons. They hired a defensive coach who had the best defense in the NFL a year ago. That added up to, I don't know about them. They might be really good. They might not. Who knows? And as it turns out, they're all just 500. That's all they are. And you just flip a coin, spin the wheel, and one of the four will win the division is what it is.
Not to mention Geno, I think he's a professional quarterback, but I don't think there's a guy that duds when he's off his game as bad as him. When he's not on it, they are they're worse than pedestrian. And that's what's really getting me with the Seahawks is they sometimes have these good efforts where he takes care of the ball and they run the ball all right and he gets it into those pass catchers' hands. But then there are these other games where Geno just looks a mess and has that blank stare on the sideline, but the coin flip is working for them, and all of a sudden they're on top of that division.
And then there's this. Hard Knocks, guys. So in the same week that you released Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, who you wouldn't pay $8 more than you were offering to, just passed his single season high in career rush yards in game 11 for the other team. He is offensive player of the year and maybe the MVP because frankly, he's the reason why Philadelphia's record is what it is. Their defense has been very good too, but offensively, he's the straw stirring that drink now, and he might get to 2,000 yards rushing. That's a possibility.
Not only that, he breaks the Eagles' single game record for yards, and that's not a no-name franchise. That's Brian Westbrook. That's LaShawn McCoy. That's Terrell Owens. That's a bunch of guys that played there in their prime and really good offenses, those Andy Reid offenses. He had a better game than all of those guys. I don't know what to say anymore other than Giants, you freaking idiots. You're going to ruin this for all of us now.
That's right.
If they make it to the Super Bowl on his back, this is your fault. And I get it. Other teams could have signed him.
If they win the Super Bowl, he'll be the MVP of the Super Bowl, period.
Correct. And it's like we're heading towards the Eagles making it to the Super Bowl on his back, and it's going to be because of you guys being dumb because he wanted to stay with you idiots. He wanted to stay with you guys. That for $500,000 to $1 million, you hand Philly their second Super Bowl. It's a distinct possibility at this point because he's hitting his stride unlike I've ever seen.
It's the dumbest decision any team made in the offseason. And over such a minimal amount of money, it's just so stupid. It's crazy. And it flipped the whole league upside down because he's on the wrong team.
Yep.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
Give sport with gifts from Nike. From the retro Vomero 5 sneaker designed with Zoom air cushioning to fleece engineered with lightweight warmth and next-level comfort, we have the perfect gift for any athlete on your list. Shop now at your nearest Nike store.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Time to move? Skip the hassles of selling during the holiday season and sell your home directly to Opendoor. Request an all-cash offer in minutes, close, and get paid in days. You can even pick your close date so you can move after New Year's. Start your move at Opendoor.com or download the Opendoor app. Open Door is represented by Open Door Brokerage Inc., license 02061130 in California, and Open Door Brokerage LLC in its other markets. Terms and conditions apply.
So disappointment number 2 of the weekend was Saturday night. You could not have convinced me that the final score of that Spirit match was going to be 1-0 either way. You just would not have convinced me of that. They're two of the most prolific scoring teams. Orlando is a very good defensive team, as was put on display. The goal that Kansas City got before late in extra time against them in the semifinals took like a perfect play to actually happen. They're really stout, very defined on defense. And so I knew it was going to be hard to score, but I trusted that Washington would, and I was surprised they didn't. And frankly, they didn't get a lot of great opportunities. Unfortunately, Ashley Hatch hit the post on a perfect cross, and that was bad luck. And then there was one moment where Rose Kawasi fired a laser, but it literally, unfortunately, went directly at the goalkeeper for Orlando. Outside of that, they had opportunities, many more than Orlando did, but very few of them were like pure, like missed opportunities. So I want to credit Orlando there. That said, I demand a rematch. The one goal that happened shouldn't have. And don't want to hear it from the rules analyst who was in the bag for the league, who went on CBS and said the referees might have done the right thing there. They didn't. Just call it like it is. It's ridiculous that the goal was allowed. I don't want to take anything away from Barbara Banda because I'm going to show this to you. She made an amazing play, but the foul should have been called before the ball was served to her in the first place. It's so clear as day. I don't understand why, for the life of me, that like they just allowed this to go. So like, watch this. Here's the end with the goal. And it's an amazing play by Banda, right? Like, I don't want to take anything away from her. She makes a great play. I bet you Aubrey Kingsbury wants it back. But, like, whatever. This is one of the best goal scorers in the league. She's a phenomenal player, MVP finalist. She makes a great play. Now, why don't we go back to the beginning of this play and how she got the ball in the first place, which, if this is not a foul when you see this, I don't know what is. How in the world did they let that go? How?
You and I have landed on this, watching so many of these games together in person, that my thing is always kind of like in the NFL. If the arms are extended, that's a push. Like, that is where I've landed on. Because I love the NWSL because of how physical things get. You picked this up this season where both sides really get really physical in every game. It's not just one-sided. It makes it very highly competitive. This is not the physicality that you want, though, where it springs a goal in your championship match, a ridiculous non-call, and Banda makes a ridiculous play there, too. That fools Kingsbury, so I want to give her credit for it. But when it comes down to it, it should have never gotten to that point.
I mean, am I stupid? Like... trying to gaslight me that didn't happen. And right. The way they twisted themselves around in knots to explain how, well, they couldn't use VAR on it. And, well, I'm not totally sure that it was clear and obvious. What are you talking about? So clearly never should have happened. And on the broadcast, because it was to go back to the original point, I never would have thought this score would have been 1-0 either way. And because that happened in the first half, I bet the refs didn't either. So in the end, I don't think anyone thought for sure that this is what it would be. But it is. And honestly, it's not a great look for the league. Because it is the one goal, and it clearly should have never happened. And that's not controversial. And I don't know why that's controversial to say it. It's not. So this all, like, after what was an amazing season by both of these teams. Orlando almost went undefeated, right? They had the longest unbeaten streak in the league's history. They had the most points in the league's history. They gave up the fewest goals. Like, they're deserving. I'm not trying to even for a second suggest they're not. They are. But in the end, these things can't happen. And I'm in a championship match that they couldn't go back and so obviously say that was a foul. Why? Why couldn't you do that?
Yeah, no, I didn't understand it either. And the broadcast kept showing it a million times too. And that was the other side of this as well, was clearly they wanted them to keep talking about it. But even I was going, guys, if you keep showing this, you're just going to keep showing people that the one goal in this game was decided on that push off. So yeah, just unfortunate end to a great season.
So I'm going to the fan appreciation event down at Audi Field. I'll be down there today at 6:00. This was either going to be a championship celebration or fan appreciation day, but I think we should celebrate what was just an incredible season by this team, regardless of the outcome here. I know it's disappointing, but it was a great run. Anyway, I'll tell you about that tomorrow. Ray, watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.